Thomas Jefferson, third President of the United States, author of the Declaration of Independence, founder of the University of Virginia, a statesman, a philosopher, and a visionary whose ideas about democracy shaped the American experiment. But among all his contributions, one vision stood at the core of Jefferson's political philosophy: the belief in an agrarian republic. To Jefferson, the strength of America lay not in crowded cities, banks, or factories, but in the open fields, in the independence of farmers, and in the deep connection between land and liberty. To understand Jefferson's vision, one must look at his world. He was born in 1743 in Shadwell, Virginia, into a planter family surrounded by rolling hills and fertile soil. From childhood, Jefferson experienced the rhythms of agrarian life: the planting, the harvesting, the ties between land, weather, and survival. This background shaped his mind. He came to believe that land ownership was not only an economic resource but also a moral foundation for freedom. Jefferson's agrarian vision was rooted in a simple idea: an independent farmer was an independent citizen. A man who worked his own land, who provided for his family, and who owed nothing to a master or employer, was truly free. In Jefferson's eyes, such citizens were the backbone of democracy. They could think for themselves, vote without coercion, and uphold the republic's principles. By contrast, he feared the rise of industrial laborers, crowded into cities, dependent on wages, vulnerable to corruption and manipulation. In Jefferson's time, Europe offered a warning. There, society was dominated by aristocrats, monarchs, and landlords who owned vast estates, while peasants toiled in poverty. Jefferson wanted America to be different. He dreamed of a nation where land was widely available, where every free man could own a farm, and where the republic would be sustained by this agrarian independence. He once wrote, "Those who labor in the earth are the chosen people of God, if ever he had a chosen people." This statement captured the spiritual weight Jefferson attached to farming and rural life. Yet Jefferson was no simple farmer. He was a man of extraordinary intellect and curiosity. He studied law, philosophy, architecture, science, and politics. He served as governor of Virginia, diplomat in France, secretary of state, vice president, and ultimately president of the United States. But through all these roles, his agrarian ideal never left him. In fact, it shaped many of his most important decisions. Take the Louisiana Purchase of 1803. At the time, the young republic was growing rapidly, but land in the East was becoming scarce. Jefferson saw the opportunity to buy Louisiana from France as more than just a territorial expansion. To him, it was the key to securing his agrarian dream. By doubling the size of the United States, the purchase ensured that generations of Americans could spread out, acquire farms, and sustain the republic through agricultural independence. Jefferson's presidency also reflected his suspicion of centralized power, banks, and industry. He feared that if wealth and influence concentrated in cities or financial institutions, they would corrupt the republic. Factories, in his view, turned men into mere tools, dependent on employers and disconnected from the land. Banks, he worried, created artificial wealth and placed dangerous power in the hands of a few. For Jefferson, the republic's health depended on keeping government limited, power decentralized, and land ownership widespread. His agrarian vision was also tied to his belief in education. Jefferson argued that a republic could only survive if its citizens were informed and virtuous. Farmers, though independent, still needed knowledge. That is why Jefferson devoted much of his later life to founding the University of Virginia. He wanted to create an institution where future generations could learn not just sciences and arts, but also civic responsibility. An educated farmer, in Jefferson's view, was the perfect citizen, independent, virtuous, and wise. But Jefferson's vision was not without contradictions. While he celebrated independence and liberty, he himself was a slaveholder. At Monticello, his Virginia plantation, enslaved men and women worked the fields that sustained his lifestyle. This contradiction has cast a long shadow over his legacy. How could the man who declared that all men are created equal depend on slave labor? How could his agrarian ideal of independence coexist with the reality of bondage? These questions haunt Jefferson's vision and reveal its limits. Moreover, the march of history challenged his agrarian dream. The Industrial Revolution was rising. Steam engines, textile mills, railroads, and factories were reshaping economies around the world. In America, too, cities grew, industries expanded, and wage labor became common. Jefferson feared this future, but it came nonetheless. His agrarian republic, rooted in the independence of small farmers, faced the tide of modernization. Still, Jefferson's vision left a profound imprint on the American Republic. His ideas fueled westward expansion, inspiring settlers to move into new territories in search of land and independence. His suspicion of concentrated power influenced generations of politicians who championed states' rights and limited government. His belief in education as the guardian of liberty became a cornerstone of American democracy. Even today, echoes of Jefferson's agrarian ideal can be found in American culture. The image of the independent farmer remains powerful. Rural life is still celebrated as a symbol of honesty, simplicity, and virtue. Debates about the balance between agriculture, industry, and finance still carry Jeffersonian undertones. His legacy reminds Americans of the enduring tension between rural independence and urban growth, between farming and manufacturing, between tradition and modernization. In the end, Jefferson's agrarian vision was not simply about farming. It was about the kind of citizens a republic needs. He believed that liberty required independence, that independence required land, and that land was abundant in America. His dream was a republic of small farmers, bound together by virtue and freedom, standing as a model to the world. Yet his dream was also incomplete. It excluded many women, Native Americans, African Americans, and the enslaved. It underestimated the transformative power of industry. And it ignored the complexities of economic growth in a modern world. But even with its flaws, Jefferson's agrarian vision remains one of the most compelling ideas in American political thought. Thomas Jefferson died on July 4, 1826, exactly 50 years after the signing of the Declaration of Independence. In his lifetime, he had seen America transform from a cluster of colonies into a vast republic stretching across a continent. His agrarian dream was never fully realized, but his influence endures. He remains a symbol of both America's promise and its contradictions. When we think of Jefferson today, we see a man of vision, intellect, and paradox. A leader who believed in freedom, yet lived amidst slavery. A philosopher who loved rural simplicity, yet was surrounded by luxury. A statesman who imagined an agrarian republic, yet presided over the dawn of an industrial age. His legacy forces us to grapple with the complexity of America itself, a nation striving for liberty, shaped by contradictions, and always evolving. Thomas Jefferson's agrarian vision was more than a policy. It was a philosophy of life, of politics, and of humanity. It asked a timeless question: what kind of citizens make a republic strong? His answer, the independent, virtuous farmer, may no longer fit the modern world, but the spirit of his vision still challenges us. It challenges us to think about independence, equality, and the balance between progress and principle. And so, Jefferson's agrarian dream lives on, not in fields of tobacco or wheat, but in the enduring debate about the soul of the American Republic. His vision may have been imperfect, but it remains unforgettable. His words, his ideas, and his contradictions continue to remind us that the story of America is not just about what it has achieved, but also about what it strives to become. Thomas Jefferson. Philosopher, farmer, statesman, and visionary. His agrarian republic may never have fully existed, but his dream helped shape the nation, and his legacy remains etched in the very heart of the American Republic.